Hello, everybody. We are back in the universe of Star Wars with your favorite Turkish speculative evolution people, CM Kozuman and TK Sivgin presenting. This is the last part of a big series in which we talked about the creatures and speculative evolution of the Star Wars universe based only on the main movies. That is to say, the original Star Wars films and the prequels. And of course, we've omitted the Disney films. But we, in our characteristic style, always ventured into lots of tangents. We have many side discussions about fossil history, real life history, politics, and stuff. And today, we are discussing episode 3. It was called Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
And well, that's the last prequel film we're going to be going through. So before beginning, let me hand it over to you, my good friend TK. How are things? What are you doing? Anything you want to shill, sir?
Anything you want? Well, what I want to shill is your Patreon, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's also mine, but that's less important.
No. Look, jokes aside, we are being kind to each other. But jokes aside, we both really depend almost on your support on patreon.com to support us. And the links are below and in the pinned comment. And any contribution makes a mistake, makes a difference. So don't make a mistake, make a difference. And please, even $1 a month, it really adds up. That's all I'll say. And in return, you get to see many free content you don't get to see anywhere else. I got a world of alien art and speculative evolution drawings and stuff like that. And I believe, TK, you are now creating some exciting stuff for Patreon too, right?
Yeah, I've started writing on something that I will post on Patreon. The first few posts will be free, and after that, pay up. But anyway, I'm working on something exciting. I don't want to make it public yet.
Okay. Fingers crossed. And also, I will say it if you don't, please consider buying TK's book book for children about dinosaurs and fossil animals. It's a really interesting, quirky book. Regardless of whether you have kids or not, it's, I think, something every paleo aficionado must possess. So, yeah.
So, how do we want to start with?
War. Dunk. That opening shot, it's, I think, one of the best. Yeah. It's a lesson of cinematography. You follow these small space fighters, and then suddenly there's a dip, and you see layers and layers of starships, star cruisers, space robots, and whatever blasting each other.
One piece of trivia I always remember is that it apparently took 3 years to render that whole space battle, because there's so many elements to it, and of course, this is the early 2000s. CGI was still a bit primitive, and yeah, this must have been so much work.
Yeah, but it really shows. It's like layers of Dante's Inferno, and the planet below is an entire Sith Coruscant. So I know that these are not creatures per se, but we actually have our first quote-unquote creature in that scene. So look guys, it helps if you watch these movies, because this is a kind of esoteric discussion if we have to provide in-depth explanation for everything. But yeah, there's a big war in space. There's different factions fighting each other. And one of the weapons they use are these Parasite droids, which always reminded me of something out of Half-Life or Command and Conquer. Would you like to describe them to our viewers?
I don't know. They because they have this big central eye, or I guess camera. They have this. They remind me of this turret robots from the Portal video games.
Oh,
have you played those?
Yeah, because of that single eye, in my mind, they always resembled the little hamster bug that you could throw in the original Half-Life games. I forgot what they were called.
I mean, Portal and Half-Life actually take place in the same universe.
Really?
Yeah, that's canon. I guess you never played it, but Portal, the whole setting is inside aperture science, and that's apparently the rival company to what's it called in Half-Life?
Black Mesa.
The rival company, like what they're doing at Black Mesa.
Oh, are the games developers the same studio?
Yeah, it's both by Valve.
Ah, okay. Well, then it would
That's why
make sense.
that's why there is no Portal 3, and also why there's no Half-Life 3, because they cannot count past.
Well, I'm really a ignorant person when it comes to Portal. I've never played it. All I know is there's a blue door and an orange door, and it's basically like almost like a shoot 'em up puzzle game where
It
you
is a
have
puzzle
to
game, yeah. It is a puzzle game. Like basically, you have like a bunch of obstacle courses that you have to solve by creative use of this portal. And yeah, the story is interesting because you like wake up as like a test subject in this lab as the only human, and there's like this female robotic voice giving you advice on what to do and what you have to do. But as you go on through the game, more and more the voice becomes more hostile, more sassy and such, and eventually you realize this robot actually wants to kill you.
Oh, so you have to like break out of the lab or stuff.
Exactly.
Wow, okay. I mean, another experience I'll probably never get to have, because I think I stopped playing video games around the time Little Big Planet came out. But yeah, it is what it is, I guess. So yeah, these are the Parasite robots. They resemble they also have this like outer carapace. It's like two golf balls, like basically a golf ball split in half, and then the legs and the eye come out.
It's kind of like the wings of a beetle.
Yeah. But that was a great design, I think. And could it be that it was designed by Terrell Whitlatch again, even though this thing is a robot?
I don't know. I mean, well, I guess I could just open up the Wikipedia here and look that shit up.
Well, while you do that, I mean, let me just describe this thing. Basically, it's a really cool insect-like robot, okay? And I think we also discussed the droid starfighters and droidicas and everything. So in a way, those robots count as creatures too. So these things open up, they land on the starfighters, and they start like gremlins, taking the whole thing apart. And as a weapon, I think it's a spectacularly useless or like very baroque weapon. But yeah, it's one of the obstacles that our Jedi heroes have to negotiate before they kind of end the battle sequence and meet General Grievous, who's the kind of apparent villain of this for the first half.
Yeah, sorry, I can't find the page for them because I don't know what they're actually called.
Oh well, I mean, look, they're Parasite droids and they're. But then we move to, I think.
Yeah, General Grievous. Yeah, I love this character so much, and it's so sad that they don't really do much with him throughout the whole franchise.
Yeah, I mean, he is one of those characters that I identified with so much growing up that it was just beyond an idol. It was almost like a father figure. I moved like him, and like I imitated his like hunchbacked run and like the way I carry my arms and stuff. And I think neither me or you were alone in doing that. But
he just had he's such a charismatic design, for those who don't know, he's a cyborg. Like he has actually some organic parts, but the rest of his body is almost entirely robotic. And it's not like a humanoid cyborg, but almost like a hawk or like a bird in general. I think they modeled a lot of his movements on predatory birds, especially apparently when he coughs, the way he jerks his head is based on how a hawk would pick at its prey.
Oh, that was another thing. The moment you see this character, he's coughing, but he's a robot. So that little detail alone tells you that there's a deeper story there, and this character has some sort of a background. And
I think it is explored in some comics or books, what his backstory is, and it's actually kind of tragic.
So would you like to regale our viewers with that? Because
for our viewers, I have I found it. I have the book, The Complete Guide to Aliens of Star Wars, with me, and I just found the page of what this Grievous species actually called. It's called Kalish.
Yeah.
And the Homo is Kali. Yeah. They are these bat-like reptile, and basically Grievous used to be the leader of this planet, and
Mm-hmm.
I think at some point during the Clone Wars, there was like a big crisis on the planet. There was a famine, and he
Yeah, yeah.
requested help from the Republic and the Jedi. And because of some political bullshit, they were unable to help him. So
Yeah.
he instead sought help from the Separatists.
Yep.
And then Count Dooku apparently like sabotaged his spaceship, and he had like a very horrible accident. And Dooku made him believe that it was the Jedi who sabotaged his spaceship, and that's why he hates Jedi so much.
Yeah, I mean, looking into the deeper lore of this character, it's surprising how the Grievous we see is totally different from the main species, and apparently his body is just like almost completely unlike his biological body, because his body is like a robot with like 4 limbs and like almost like a bird insect kind of thing. And this is one like folkloric trivia. I remember when watching episode 3 in the cinema, there was like a father and son sitting next to me, and like these guys, you know, they were normal people. They were not too deep into the Star Wars rabbit hole. And I remember the father like was trying to like make conversation with the kid, and he said like when Grievous came on scene, he said like, oh, this is the king of all those battle droids, I guess, because the design really had that coding.
Yeah.
It really looked
I mean,
like
he actually is like the highest commander of the droid army, and that's actually almost like an insult to him, because he hates being called a droid.
Oh, well, you see, that's the deepest lore, but I think like on a very surface level to the most basic audience, like Grievous design is coded such that, you know, we've been seeing the droid army for the past 2 movies, normal skinny war droids, the battle droids, and then there were like the wheel-shaped droidicas and starfighters and everything. But now, because this is the last film, we see the king of them all. And of course, the story is way different in the lore, but I think in terms of just filmmaking and narrative storytelling, it's a really nice plot twist. It's almost like seeing the Queen alien in Aliens after basically watching alien stuff for 2 films. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of part of Star Wars, that it all has this, at least the designs, they all have this internal consistency. Like you can immediately tell by just looking at the character if they're part of the Separatists, the Empire, the Republic.
Yeah, and you can tell they come from the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
And that is something they lost in the Disney films, I must say.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I think I've shown you this video where a guy compared like the alien designs of the schools with like the previous movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, the sequel designs, they are like internally very similar to each other, but they're not very similar to the previous trilogies.
No, they look like they're from like the designers of Men in Black 3 or something.
Yeah. Like I've been saying the same. Like they look like Men in Black aliens. Yeah. Although even in Men in Black, you had at least some interesting alien designs.
Yeah, I think like to go on a tangent, the original Men in Black had incredible alien designs.
Yeah, like like the final cockroach at the end, or those like little like worm guys.
The worm guys. I think there's this alien. He just appears in the first scene. He's called Mikey, and he's got these things that look like fly traps.
Yeah, I know, the one that like disguises himself as a Mexican.
Yeah, with a robot puppet head, and he's got these like Venus flytrap kind of things growing out of his back.
Like, hold up all of your flippers. I think that's what Agent K says.
Yeah. So like that movie, I think, stands aside. Even like the kind of jokey aliens. Like there's this one scene where this alien family gives birth on a roadside, and it's like an alien mermaid baby. But
he looks like
that
Kid Fisto.
thing. Sorry.
He looks like Kid Fisto, that baby.
Yeah. One of the
Jedi. That's always so funny.
One of the many Jedi with head tentacles. I think they had to create like 10 different humanoid species with head tentacles.
Yeah, it is so common that those tentacles actually have an in-universe name, Leku.
Yeah. It all started with the Twi'leks from Jabba's palace.
Yeah, I think it's even like canon that all of these like head tentacle humanoids have like the same ancestor.
Oh, at least that would like make sense.
Yeah. Like there's the Twi'leks, there is species of Kito, there's the Togruta, that's like the species of Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like to make a tangent on the tangent, it's like whenever there's like a alien character that the designers want to kind of feel human, and more often than not these are females, they immediately go with the Leku route. Like, okay, make it a girl, but instead of hair, she's got tentacles or horns, and well, it's one of the things I can forgive the original Star Wars for.
I wonder what Sigmund Freud would say about that.
I don't know. I think it's
if there is like some deeper like sexual meaning behind that.
I mean, like, even I think I'm really not kidding, but you could even go into like, post-colonial social where all these head tentacle aliens or like these weird face horn aliens are like, I don't really like this term, but they come from the quote-unquote global south. So they're from the galactic south. They're like non-white minority coded. I'm always a bit ambivalent about these. Like, look, I don't think it's a sign of racism that you have humanoid aliens, but at the same time, they are really a bit like exotic coded, and I would not call it prejudice, but it's kind of like a easy way out, an easy shorthand of alien design.
Yeah, it is. It's a holdover from like earlier times of sci-fi where you had less budget and you had to make do with creating aliens on a budget, like Star Trek, for example.
It doesn't really help that also those Twi'lek women and Ahsoka look really beautiful, and anyway.
Anyways.
They got me. They got me, man.
Yeah, wait, we were first talking about Grievous, and then we came to Men in Black, and
okay. So let's backtrack. Let's backtrack. So
no, wait. Back to Men in Black.
Yeah.
Once this series is over, where we talk about creature design in Star Wars, like everyone who has watched this far, please comment down below what other movies with like alien creatures or creatures in general you want us to discuss future.
That's a great idea.
I think Men in Black would actually, like the Men in Black, the trilogy would actually be a great candidate.
Yeah, the original 3 films, we could definitely.
Yeah.
We could really definitely. By the way, going back at my praise of the original Men in Black, so that movie has solid alien design, but then in Men in Black 2, where it's a more comedic, it's almost like they almost look like these faces that they distort with the Photoshop liquify tool with like the popped eyes and stuff like that. And there's a character called the Balchinian who literally has like testicles in his, so you can't hit him anywhere else, but if you punch him on the chin, he like doubles over in agony. And I think I kid you not, at one point or in either Men in Black 2 or 3, they had a literal blobfish standing in as an alien, and it
that
just
was the third one.
Yeah, it just like says and it's just shot. And I think it was just such a, back when that film was made, the original blobfish image was such a meme that I think they just had to include it there. And like if you go back and watch it, it's like a really crappy piece of computer effects. It may not even be 3D, it's just this like, they distort this image, they make its mouth move like one of those YouTube animations, and it just blows up, basically.
About that blobfish image, you probably know that, but maybe some viewers don't. Like that image, that's not how blobfish actually look like. That was an individual, like these are deep sea fish. So that was an individual that was hauled up to the surface, and because of the extreme pressure differences, it basically exploded and like.
It doesn't explode, but these things are called blob sculpins, SULPIN, and the genus name is Psychrolutes, so PSYCHROLUTES, Psychrolutes. And yeah, as you said, they look like these very round and streamlined teardrop-like balls of flesh, but so the head is actually very round and like greasy. And I think whatever happens, like maybe it was like crushed against the net or something, as the head deflates, you have this kind of like flap of skin forming, and that looks like the funny
like a nose. Yeah, but yeah, the real fish, it doesn't have that, like the living fish doesn't have that nose, and it looks more like a regular fish, and it actually doesn't have this like blobby skin. Instead it has like more like a prickly skin. It actually looks kind of...
Yeah, and I'm just looking at an image of the blobfish in Men in Black, and it's really well done. Like really ridiculous. and okay, going back to Star Wars, this
Yeah,
blobfish.
Grievous.
Like before we get back there, the blobfish actually looks like a Star Wars alien we see in the Disney series, Unkar Platt. Remember that guy?
Oh yeah, the one that gives out rations, right?
Yeah. So he's like the evil cashier guy, and oh my god, he really does look like a blobfish.
I mean, I think there is some trivia that says that he was directly designed after a blobfish.
Yeah, so I mean, you can see the kind of bastardization or at least Men in Blackification of Star Wars right there. So we got like a concrete example.
Oh god, I had like a very bad joke in mind because you said that.
Oh, okay.
Should I?
Well, we'll
Should
go
I?
back. Huh.
No, I won't.
Okay.
Excuse me, but
Sorry.
I don't know. I don't know, man. Oh, maybe cut this out, maybe leave it in. Who knows? It could land us like, you know how sensitive people can be.
Yeah, like I don't mean it in a racist way. I mean like the porn category. To clarify.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Like, anyways. Going on. Let's go back to Lord Grievous and what a majestic figure he was. Completely not like those designs which we see in the other films, right?
Yeah, he's just so charismatic. Like he's kind of like Dracula, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like a very like how you kind of imagine Dracula. He even has like the cape.
Yeah. I think it's like George Lucas' way of like blending all these classic movie monsters, because remember George Lucas is like a great film history buff too, and basically he's got like Dracula and even Frankenstein and maybe some other like, I don't know, Nosferatu even, like some other classical. He has the spirit of those monsters.
Definitely. Like it comes later in the movie, but yeah, the scene where Vader is created and he like emerges from like that table, that's obviously like based on those old Frankenstein movies. And yeah, the interesting thing about Grievous also in that regard is that he basically is a foreshadowing for Darth Vader, because they are both cyborgs and they both have breathing problems.
Well, that's very well said. Well, I think like this episode especially owes a lot to like Flash Gordon.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Even like if you look at Grievous' personal spaceship, it has these 1930s sports car line. Like it's really kind of like on point and on purpose. So yeah. So now there's some gaps in the story without any creatures. Like after we're introduced to Grievous.
Yeah. Like I think I already said it's like I am watching the movie in parallel in the background, and right now it's like the Battle of Kashyyyk, where the droid army is basically doing the Normandy invasion, but on the Wookiee planet.
Yeah. And for some reason they have to come out of a lake.
Yeah, because it looks cool.
Yeah.
And obviously it's like based on the invasion of the Normandy in World War II.
Yeah. I mean, storming the beaches and everything. The vehicles they have there, they have like one of the rare wheeled in Star Wars in that scene.
Yeah, right. I never noticed that. Now that you said, yeah, it's the only time we see wheels. Really.
Yeah, and I think it was on the side of the good guys. So they have these like almost like Mattel toy style, like 8-wheel tanks that can like go rapidly in swamps and stuff. I think those were cool designs. Plus, I think to continue the Flash Gordon analogy, like as the movie progresses, we see like more and more action and scenes set inside this great big war that's wrecking the galaxy, and you have some very weird designs. Like there are these like missile cruisers that have these like, it's like a big insect mask with like 2 wheels that are like, it's straight out of like astounding science fiction circa 1934 or something, and they shoot all
like
homing missiles.
A bit like how the heads of the tripods are described in War of the Worlds.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have many creatures, so like I'm always kind of like interested in designs of the droids and the robots or the vehicles.
I mean, the droids, they are creatures, like, because they are so lifelike in perspective.
Yeah.
I think they are a type of life form in a certain sense in this universe.
Then a lot of wars happen, and we find ourselves in a creature-heavy planet, Utapau, and I mean, I really like these scenes. So why don't you describe the Utapau sequence to
Yeah,
our
basically,
millions of viewers?
after Grievous like loses the battle for Coruscant, like, and Count Dooku is killed by Anakin, like Grievous Utapau, where he takes like this council of the Separatist order with him, and Obi-Wan basically tracks him there, and he meets with like the natives of the planet who like try to very discreetly tell him that they are being taken hostage. And the Utapauans, they're very interesting because they are played by humans. They're very humanoid, but they just look very creepy.
They look very like it's a good way to do, I think, humanoid aliens, because I think first of all they're very tall, and
they
there's
have
just
tall
something.
foreheads.
Yeah, there's something about their skin. It's almost like chameleon skin. It's like it's got stripes running through it, and they have a very particular dentition. Like they have these like very sharp T-shaped incisors, which, come to think of it, you don't get to see anywhere else in Hollywood. It's not like a vampire tooth at all.
Yeah, they look a bit like in a Lovecraft story where you have like these mongrel fish people or something that have like that look outwardly human, but when they open their mouth, it's like fish teeth or something.
You know, that's actually like, I'm looking at a picture of one of these guys now. So it's like, actually there are two sets of spiky incisors that are angled inwards, and then the other two, like 4 other teeth are visible, and those are like shark teeth almost. So look, I think this is a great...
I'm seeing the scene right now. It's happening right now as we talk. You see?
And he's got enormous pupils. You can't see the whites of his eyes either.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And also another thing that just passed by before I showed you, like, I just noticed that the roofs of their buildings are like made from like the rib cages of some large animal.
Oh.
Like almost like Giga-esque. It's very interesting.
Whoa. I never considered that.
Yeah.
But I think like when it comes to humanoids, this is actually a great kind of design, because from simple things like teeth, and you see this if you look in, like, if you compare a fox with like a marsupial predator, quoll or something, like their bodies are similarly shaped, but if you look at the teeth and stuff, you can tell that this thing evolved from a completely different background. I mean, maybe it's an extremely divergent human, or it could even be some like previously flying creature that just happens to resemble a human being.
Yeah.
And
exactly. Another thing, like they have like this carved skin. I don't know if you've mentioned that before. Like,
yeah, it looks like a
like
whale's throat.
Lines across their whole face, and it's like actually in the skin, and yeah, looks sweet.
Yeah, that's why I said it was like chameleon skin or Uroplatus gecko skin. I don't know, maybe it has got some like, maybe the habitat is very dry, so it helps them condense water, or I don't know, I have no idea.
What I also like about them is, like, even though they look so creepy, they are actually like just normal people that like they're the victims in this story. Like they're nice. That's something I always liked about Star Wars, that creatures, like even ugly, can be the good guys. Like we had that in the original trilogy with like Admiral Akbar and whatever the other guy's name was that flew with Lando. Like that's a nice moral that George Lucas always tried to get across, that looks aren't everything, basically.
Exactly.
Like they don't say something about the moral character.
So these characters we were discussing, they were actually not called Utapauans, but they're called Pauans. And there's a second species on Utapau, a second intelligent species on Utapau, which you briefly get to see. These are called Utai, Utai, and I'm just Googling their image now.
Yeah,
they appear very briefly in the background. They have these like frog-like faces, and they kind of have like this kind of, they look like they're space mechanics. Yeah, they're like squat humanoids with frog-like faces or mudfish-like faces, and they look really cute and friendly. And apparently these guys are called Utai, and the others, the vampire teeth guys, they're called the Pauans. They have a kind of symbiosis, so that's why the planet is called Utapau, because it's a portmanteau of both species names.
It's just so lovely how much world building there is in such so few seen.
Yeah, exactly. And then there are these like incredible pterodactyl horse that appear in this world, in this scene too. Like
Exactly.
these all appear in like less than 2 minutes, by the way.
Yeah, they are very. As a kid, I always thought these like pterosaur aliens are very funny because the color scheme is almost exactly the same as the ornithocheirus in Walking with Dinosaurs.
Ooh, I did not know about them. But so you see these things in the setting of the War of Utapau, basically. So on this planet, the cities are set inside very deep holes in the ground, and basically imagine a well, and there are spirals on the walls of the well inside on the interior of the thing. And you have got this establishing shot just to see how big and deep these pits are. You see some like clone troopers on these flying animals. It's almost like a scene from a Hieronymus Bosch painting. So clone troopers on these flying animals like fly into the wells. So you see that these things are big and stuff. And the creatures look like imagine an Azrakid pterosaur connected to a kind of monkey's body with two wings, exactly like a pterosaur, and it's got two small horns on the tip of its beak, just to kind of make it look alien, quote unquote. And that's that. Anything else you want to chip in about these things?
Like we had this discussion about this movie feeling a lot like Flash Gordon. Like that creature design in particular reminds me a lot of even earlier the Edgar Rice Burroughs stories about
Exactly.
Like, because there is a story, I don't know which one it was, but there is a book, John Carter book, where like some evil scientist on Mars clones and like an extinct of like Martian bird, so they can ride it and use it as like a weapon of war. And and I think in the illustrations they kind of seemed like it was more like avian than pterosaur, but still had like 6 limbs.
Yeah. I mean, any movie goer would think this is just an alien, and so they would just think this is a pterosaur. So to set it apart, they gave it 2 little nose horns, so it kind of sits out. Because in terms of like commonplace film audiences, anything with wings and like a bird-like face, it automatically registers as pterosaur, and it's almost like mid-journey. Like, doesn't really matter how many limbs it has, because surprisingly few people care about that.
There was like some old cartoon called Extreme Dinosaurs, and even there the humanoid pterosaur character had like wings and arms.
Yeah, because like I'm sure to like 80% of the population, even in this day and age, wings are just wings. No, they're not assumed to be arms or legs with a different function. And it's just one of those things which people cursed with an understanding of biology and evolution just must live around. Yeah.
So and of course, like the next big creature after those is the Varactyl, which is basically a giant gecko bird ridden by Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And in this Utapau sequence, we see the most insane scenes ever committed to cinema. I think it's to George Lucas' credit as an auteur filmmaker, because also always remember that these films were some of the last films in which one guy called all the shots with a huge budget. You could maybe argue that Avatar is somewhat similar, James Cameron's Avatar, but this was one of the last films in which one guy had so much echo. So George Lucas was kind of like flexing his creative muscles and saying, this is my universe, deal with it. So we got this scene where there's this gecko, giant dragon-sized gecko with almost like a dinosaur-like face, and it's got a very, very memorable sound to like bum-whack or something like that. Yeah. So Obi-Wan is riding this and he's chasing General Grievous, who also has a mount, but it's like a kind of one-wheeled bicycle, gyroscopic bicycle with like insect-like legs of its own, and it's just insane. And I mean, whenever I watch that scene, I sometimes like, when you're browsing at 3 a.m. or something, when you're online at 3 a.m., I just search for it like Obi-Wan Utapau chase, and it's just a wonderful, just so dreamy.
The lightsaber fight between Obi-Wan and General Grievous is also amazing. Like, have you ever noticed that? Like, there is a moment where Grievous like unfolds his arms and he suddenly has like 4 lightsabers. If you look in the background, you can see like 2 B1 battle droids. Like, one is looking away, the other one like nudges him a bit with his fist, like, "Hey, look there, something cool is about to happen."
Oh yeah, the fight's on.
It's like a really cute detail.
Yeah, it's I think like credit. Yeah, but that was awesome.
Generally, like the CGI in this movie, it looks so good still. Like, it's aged so well.
Yeah, because it's consistent. I think like they didn't try to make it too quote unquote realistic. They just like stuck to a main line, and actually all the quote unquote live action characters conform to it too. Like, so yeah, I mean you can still watch it with a suspension of disbelief.
Like, I think this is the movie with the best. This is the Star Wars movie with the best CGI. I think, of course, in Phantom Menace, it was still like very early stages, like right after Jurassic Park. Then Attack of the Clones, it was so much CGI that it looks like almost like an animated. But here, I think they actually struck the right balance, where they combined right now it's the fight between Obi-Wan and Grievous, and it just looks so organic. You cannot tell which one is a real actor, which one is CGI. It's amazing.
Yeah, and
this is like
I think everything was CGI in those scenes. That's also another secret they had. Even Obi-Wan is CGI.
That is true. Yeah, I just saw it in that fight scene. But you don't think about it when you see it. That's the thing. Whereas like in many modern movies, like your eye almost catches, okay, this part is like CG, this part is like real.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think they did the same thing in The Matrix Revolutions, the last film of the Matrix trilogy, when Neo has to fight thousands of clones of Agent Smith in the city, and everything there is CG as well, like Keanu Reeves, Hugo Weaving.
Yeah. But still, like, I don't know, I've seen this in like some discussions that like this early 2000s CGI actually had a bit more edge than a lot of modern stuff, and like this movie comes immediately to my mind now that I'm serious. And another movie from this era is Pirates of the Caribbean, like Davy Jones. Like that guy still looks so fucking real. It's amazing.
Yeah, that was I think one of the most realistic CGI creatures ever. Davy Jones and his crew too, like all those like Crabman, Sharkhead Man, and like,
that was so cool too, like all those. Okay, that's another idea for a future episode, the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I mean, like, just to like praise David Jones a bit more, I think
David Jones.
no, was it Davy Jones?
Davy Jones, yeah.
Yeah. So I think in those films the animators were given time, and they were given kind of like a sense of autonomy. Because in a lot of modern films, especially the Marvel movies, there's almost like this farm of hundreds of animators who don't get paid enough, by the way. And they're just given these tasks, it has been like structured into a workflow, like basically like, so, I mean, the same group of people could be animating, let's say, a Marvel movie one day and the dinosaur movie the other day. They're just kind of like a factory arrangement. But in those films, I think you still had this sweet spot when animators and the visual effects team had some time. Also, the number of visual effects shots was still comparatively limited, so they really could lavish their time on their trade, and they could really lavish their time and their love on these creations.
Yeah, and also like were, I don't know how to say, like written around these special effects shots. Whereas today, like, movie is shot and then with a mentality, we will fix everything in post.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's that approach too.
And the thing about like overworking stuff, like I think another big factor is at this time CGI effects artists were still treated like physical effects artists. And after that time, like those two branches of special effects kind of diverged, because like physical effects departments, they became unionized.
Did they?
Yeah, they became unionized, and to this day, no CGI studio has formed a union, which is why you see such a proliferation of CGI being used by movie studios, because they cannot defend themselves against the abuse.
Well, I mean, here's hoping that they can unionize sometime. But yeah,
they definitely, like you said, they are just being overworked, and they cannot really work on this as if it is art, but it's just a job. And
I mean, that's like, I think it's a melody we are seeing everywhere, like in all activities of work. Even I think public and administration and governance, they are kind of going that sort of territory. Sad state of affairs. But going back to the Utapau fight scene between Obi-Wan and Grievous, I always thought there was like a kind of reverse St. George and the Dragon kind of symbolism there. Like here you have a spiritual warrior riding an organic dragon, like a knight and a dragon, traditionally their antagonists. But together they are fighting this unholy union of alien machines. And I always liked to think that Lucas kind of coded some deep symbolism there, maybe.
I never considered that, but that's a really interesting way to look at this. Yeah,
and they're like evenly watched, but just, I don't know, it's just one of the ways this movie is really, really good, if nothing else.
Yeah. Right now, as I'm watching, it's the scene where Palpatine fights.
Oh.
Yeah. And I mean, are there any other creatures we have that you want to talk about?
No, I think like for the main creatures we're done, but then there's the, I think, political angle of the whole thing that
I think we just have to talk about this movie. Like I loved it because I think it vaccinated an entire generation being able to recognize the signs of a wannabe dictator wanting to manufacture consent for his.
Yeah, and I think it's really kind of mainstreamed the idea of, let us say, evil forces behind the scenes bankrolling both sides of a conflict. And like that kind of thing was like, most people did not even think that way before. I mean, there was a good guy and a bad guy. Like, Saddam Hussein was bad, and the Western world has its problems, but we were the good guys. And I don't think it's a coincidence that these movies also came out during the Second Iraq War, during which actually most of something really like Palpatine's scheme took place in Western democracy. And it's hard to pin names on who's who, but if you look at things like the US elections and stuff, I mean, you really see that candidates in a democracy, I don't care who you vote for, but the candidates don't really represent their sides or even themselves. And it's really clear to see there are enormous power interests behind the scenes managing both of these performers. And it's like a really Sith state of affairs.
But I think what is more profound, than this conspiracy theory about people working in the shadows. I think the movie series shows how a democracy can turn into a dictatorship, and it does it by using examples from real history, because a lot of the things that Palpatine did in the prequel trilogy, except maybe for being literally the leader of two sides of a war, but a lot of these tactics were used in real life by various leaders, Napoleon. He came to power in a republic and was voted into being emperor.
Emperor. No, emperors. You said it well.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I kind of slur my words. Anyway, Napoleon was voted into this absolutist position because people liked him, so they thought, we're better off with this than with voting.
Yeah, or even subtler things, like the United States has a whole Department of Homeland Security, entire department, which was only set up after September 11. And big agencies like this have little oversight. They have enormous budget. They're unaccountable. They can practically do anything, and there's nothing stopping their power. So I mean, there are really disturbing parallels to many things you see in this film.
Yeah, I mean, that as a general pattern, many democracies have a bit in their constitution that says that during wartime we have to elect basically a dictator. That's literally where it comes from in the Roman constitution. They when Rome was still a republic, they had a piece written into their constitution that said when they're at war, they have to elect a dictator who has to autocratic Rome, so that like the entire war machinery can function more directly and more responsively.
Yeah.
And after the war is over, that dictator has to give up power again. And you see throughout Roman history, various people basically abuse this by using a war or even a civil war to make themselves like the dictator. Like Caesar tried to do that, and it's how Emperor Augustus came to power and made himself the first emperor.
Yeah.
And later on, that's how Weimar Germany became Nazi Germany, because there was this like terrorist attack on the Reichstag, and Hitler used that to declare a state of emergency that lasted for an entire decade.
Yeah.
And during that time, he basically used that state of emergency to gain absolute power over the state.
Yeah, we had something like this after the 2016 coup attempt in Turkey. It took them like basically 2 to 3 years before the state of emergency was lifted. But yeah, I mean, it's a good kind of red pilling, I think, against political subterfuge in general. And
yeah, like I said, this be like Vexel with like pattern recognition.
Exactly. And to think that this was like a Star Wars film, like one of the most popular franchises of all time.
Yeah, that's I will always love George Lucas for that he used these movies to make like a genuine political message that is like very like as important, like probably even more important today than it was back then.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah. And while we're on the topic, I mean, the original Star Wars movies, they were also very political. Like Lucas has said many times that they were basically an analogy for the Vietnam War.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think Lucas was on record saying, like, if you follow things to their logical conclusion, basically the US government is the empire, and something like the Viet Cong and the hippies were the rebels. Oh yeah, I don't know, by the time of the Ewoks, it's a whole other social landscape. Maybe Ewoks could be, I don't know, like Nicaraguan rebels or something like, I don't know. So there, I mean, the creatures, speculative evolution, and political ramifications of Star Wars. Phew. Any other bits you want to add?
Let me think. Oh, right now it's scene where Anakin storms the Jedi Temple. I mean, that's such a raw scene where he just kills all of the younglings.
Yeah, but it was prefigured when he killed not only the man, but the woman and the children too.
Yeah, but nobody cared at the time because they were sand. Isn't that sad?
You see, this is Lucas' political genius. I'm only faintly joking, literally, because like it's the same thing. Nobody cares when they're sand people, but then you have governments using drones to spy on their own citizens, and you know how that technology grew. It's like that famous poem. I don't know the author anymore. Like first they came for the socialists, and I didn't care because I wasn't a socialist, and so on. Yeah, exactly. The last bits of this film are like basically just pure Shakespearean tragedy.
Yeah, right now,
and Obi-Wan's duel.
Right now, as you speak, Order 66 is happening.
Oh yeah, and we get some faint glimpses of alien worlds there.
Yeah, I love that these alien worlds were actually kind of like they were given own maps in the Battlefront games that I've been playing them recently again.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
Like the snow planet that Kid Adimundi dies on, or like this tropical planet with like these like.
They're riding giant caterpillars on one of those, right?
And those are that you can actually play on those planets in Battlefront. That's the cool thing about those games.
Oh, well, my gaming days are behind me. I did not know this.
I mean, the games were from like 2004, 2005.
All right.
You could have played them.
I mean, I don't know. I was never a like competitive shoot 'em up guy. Like the only game of that genre, I only remember playing 2 games. One was called Dark Forces, and it was set in the Star Wars universe. Okay, 3 games. There was another game called Alien Trilogy, where it was just Alien Trilogy.
Oh, that one is. I know one fun bit of trivia about that game. That was like the first, like in like modern controllers, you have like 2 sticks. Like with one you control.
Oh yeah, like rotate and twist kind of thing. Yeah,
It was the shooter game that actually uses controls, and reviewers at the time actually hated it. And it's so funny to read about people that say this control scheme is so weird, and today it's like the standard for how these games are controlled.
Wow, I did not know this, but come to think of it, yeah, because before you could only move like you could either move like on 4 directions and you had to like manually turn, or it was like a race car. Basically, you had to like.
Yeah, before you only had the Nintendo 64, which only had like a single control stick in the middle. So like shooter games like GoldenEye or Turok, they had to compromise. I think in Turok, you like controlled the character, like the movement of the character with the control stick, and like you aimed with the cross. And in GoldenEye it was the opposite. You aimed with the control stick and you moved with the cross. And it's so funny how like archaic control schemes are like compared today. And
I don't even remember how old games used to be controlled, which is really weird. Think about it.
Yeah, like I've never grown up with the Nintendo 64, so I have always been baffled by this like free horn design. Like, how the hell was this supposed to work?
I mean, I never had Nintendo 64. We had a friend who ran it, who had it, and there's like a extra bank of direction buttons in one wing or something. It's a really strange machine. Let me say that.
Yeah, it was like the first console capable of like no, actually not the first, but like one of the first being developed for 3D games. So they still had to figure out how do you actually control a character in 3 dimensions, and this was their solution. And then Sony, like the very first PlayStation controller, didn't have control sticks yet. It only had like the D-pad. I think that's the concept.
Yeah, it just had up, down, left, right. I remember.
And those like triangle buttons, and only a later edition added these like 2 controls.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. I'm from the Mega Drive generation, and 3 buttons and a four-way direction thing. Those are all that you needed, man.
Did the Mega Drive have shoulder button?
You could have controllers with shoulder button.
Yeah, right. There were like multiples, yeah. Because I think Super Nintendo was the first one that added that.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Super Nintendo had them first. You had these kind of like later on towards the life of the console, you had extra controllers, like for example for the Mega Drive, and the shoulder buttons were not official, but they could maybe work as a kind of rapid fire button or something like that.
Do you know which console had the first controls?
Pong? I don't know.
No, no, like in the modern sense.
Oh, PlayStation 2? I don't know.
No, it was the Sega Saturn.
Oh fuck, yes.
That one actually had like a special controller made for, I think, a single game, Nights in Dream, if you know that.
Yeah, like... wait. I'm just googling it now. Yes, Sega Saturn Knights controller. It's an ugly beast. It's like a circular UFO-shaped thing. Basically, it looks like a pancake machine, to be honest. And whoa, okay.
Yeah. But it's so fascinating how like in these early days of technology things were solved.
I'm a big fan of like obscure video game consoles, by the way.
Oh, I think there is a YouTube channel you will love. It's called Lazy Game Reviews. Like
I don't know.
He reviews a lot of like these like 90s and 2000s like paraphernalia, including like really weird C controls. Like really look him up. I think you will love his stuff.
So what was it called?
Lazy Game Reviews.
Lazy Game Reviews. Okay, I have it noted and I will look it up.
Yeah, I can also send you links to that. By the way, as I was watching the movie, it was the scene where like Yoda says goodbye to Chewbacca. It's so sad.
No.
Goodbye, Chewbacca. So I will.
There's a really like hard-hitting soundtrack in these parts of the film.
No, like actually, I think in exactly that scene there is like a little cue that's like a reference to, because like Yoda's space pod leaves the atmosphere exactly like in spaceship, and so like John Williams put that in as a little joke.
I don't know. The hard-hitting tune I speak about it's called Anakin's Dark Deed.
Oh yeah. Like the one where he, yeah, or also where he's like sitting in like the council chamber all by himself and like just thinking about what to do next and what his future. And it's like it's not really music, it's just like this really menacing droning sound, like
Yeah. There's also a bit when the Jedi Temple is on fire in the soundtrack, there's a kind of like a woman's lamentation kind of.
Yeah,
like,
that's.
So you were talking about that scene too. Okay.
Yeah, I think there was like a woman's lamentation and that droning again. Of course, earlier there's also like this literal space opera scene. You know which one I mean?
But they're in the opera and it's like wow, and everybody claps and like people are swimming in some zero gravity ball of water or something like that.
Have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
That scene, like as they're talking, in the background there's this mural, some sort of Sith worms or something. It's not really even clear, but like it really like comes together and oh man.
Yeah, the scene about Darth Plagueis, it is really fascinating because I mean there was I think a novel that kind of there was a novel about Darth Plagueis, but it's still not really clear how canon that is today after the Disney acquisition. Honestly, I would actually prefer it if that story actually was remained mysterious.
Yeah,
because it's just so fun to speculate. Like, is like the apprentice of Darth Plagueis? Is it Darth Sidious, or is it just a story he knows, or
is it just a lie? Like
that could also be. Yeah.
So there's this kind of mural in the background, and it shows these like it's a very faint mural, but it has the armies fighting each other. And with like giant worms and stuff like that, and yeah, exactly. It looks a bit like the Dune creatures. Yeah, a battle during the So there are these like people riding big lizards and worms, and they're fighting. It is so cool. In the film, you only see this like blurred in the background, and it just adds such like a satanic depth to Palpatine's lore, and it's kind of like a hint of who he really is.
Yeah, it's the scene where he reveals to Anakin that he is Darth Sidious and that only he knows how to save his. Yeah, it's exactly like Anakin is making a pact with the devil.
Yeah.
Right now they're on Mustafar as I'm watching.
Oh.
I always found the name of that planet so funny because I have a cousin named Mustafa.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. When this thing came out in the theater, I was like, what? Oh, well. I guess this is it then. I mean, the conclusion of our, how many parts now? 4-part long Star Wars?
We had one part where we talked about the entire original trilogy and then one for each prequel.
Yeah. I think as our discussions got deeper, we added more substance to each, so I don't know. If you were to do them all over again, maybe it would now take 6 episodes, if not more.
I want this is a radical idea. What if we really did the sequels next?
I mean, it's not impossible.
I mean, it would be like it's been so long since I've watched those. Maybe I don't know. Maybe my feelings will change on them.
I mean, I won't say no, and in the worst case, we will dunk on them, and it still be enjoyable. So yeah.
Well, actually, like I told you, I think I actually do like episode 7 and 8, but then 9 ruined everything.
I like episode 8. I think anything touched by the hand of J.J. Abrams, it's just kind of fake. But anyways, we'll discuss.
We have to refer to him now as Jar Jar Abrams.
No, Jar Jar Binks has quality.
Yeah, but he is not Jar Jar Binks. He's Jar Jar Abrams, a different character. But you know what I mean.
Okay. Well, also let us bring this question to our followers. Which movies would you like us to review next in terms of speculative biology or evolution?
We could do Avatar, we could do Alien. I mean, Jurassic Park would also be interesting to talk about how they designed the dinosaurs and how accurate they got. And
I'm also really hyped about Men in Black.
Yeah, Men in Black, that's a candidate. What other movies have great creature design?
The Abyss by James Cameron.
I still have to watch that.
Oh, you're gonna love it. I think the message and everything is just great.
The John Carter movie, that one is great too.
Yeah, like we could do it exactly.
Or I mean, Lord of the Rings doesn't have. I mean, it does have creatures, but it's not that interesting from a design standpoint, I think.
Yeah, except for the Mumakil, the elephant guys.
Yeah, right. But at the end, it's just an elephant that's the size of a fucking dinosaur.
But it was like a phenomenal scene. But yeah, the other things, the wargs were pretty well designed too.
The wargs,
no, actually, I'll take it back. The creature design in the Lord of the Rings movies is really good.
Yeah. What I didn't like about the movies compared to the books is like the fell beasts of Mordor. You know, those like winged creatures that the Nazgul ride, because in the books they are actually described looking like old pterosaurs.
Ah.
Like they are like described as basically naked birds with bat. But in the movie they look more generically like wyvern dragons.
Yeah, I think they had these. But even then, the face, I remember, it was like the face of a dewback.
Yeah, that too, yeah. But yeah, what I'm saying is like it would be cool if they actually did it more like in the books where like Tolkien himself admitted that he unintentionally made it look like a pterosaur.
Well, I mean, in the films they just stuck these like little evil fins everywhere, so it looks more heavy metal and more evil. Plus, I think there's a kind of design limitation when you want to film a creature with a human being riding it. Sorry. Bless you. Thank you. So like when you have a flying animal and human characters are riding this and interacting with other, so there are design choices you have to make, and we see this in the Ikran dragons in Avatar, and then we also see those in the original Lord of the Rings fell beast, where like he has to like look down on the no man can kill me and stuff like that. Like he has to like speak riding this thing, but it also has to like look kind of plausible. And I think it's to like Weta Workshop's credit that they made these things enormous. The wingspans are very large and stuff like that. Oh yeah. I mean,
yeah, I know it's a bit boring that they just look like dragons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. I find dragons boring too,
because you see like the other creatures in the movie, they do have like this prehistoric inspired design. Like you have the Mumakil, you have the wargs that look like creodont mammals.
Yeah.
And there's also briefly that scene with like these rhinoceros type creatures that pull the wolves.
Oh yeah, great beasts. Yeah.
The grunt.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, and yeah, also the Watcher in the water from like Fellowship of the Ring. You know, that like kraken monster that lives in the lake.
Yeah. Do we even get to see it though?
Like I think there is like one scene where you see that it actually has like a kind of humanoid face. Yeah. But yeah, you never really get to see the whole creature, and it's funny when you look in like video games and such how they depict it, and each video game kind of depicts differently. Like some depict it as like a kraken. Another game depicts it as like a Loch Ness type monster. Interesting.
Yeah, I'll tell you the most boring design in the Lord of the Rings films. It's freaking Smaug. I really dislike it. I mean,
to be fair, that's the Hobbit, and that's a whole other kettle of worms. Like that, I feel so bad for Peter Jackson because he was basically forced to make these movies because Guillermo del Toro was fed up with studio.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, that's a story for another time. So, Lord of the Rings, what other movies could there be that we could talk about? We wanted to talk about The Fifth Element. I remember that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I mean, I could talk about that for hours. Let our viewers decide, though. If you listen to us
Godzilla. We have to talk about Godzilla at some point.
Okay. I'm down.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Godzilla films was the original Destroy All Monsters.
Yeah, that one is funny.
Yeah, not the 2022 one, but like the 1968 version where it's like a bunch of people in costumes and
like beating, like the way they just beat the shit out of Ghidorah, and I think like Gorosaurus drop kicks him, and
there's one thing called Varan, and there's Godzilla's son too.
Yeah, Varan actually had his own movie at some point. Like he used to be one of the big Toho monsters, but over the years he was just kind of forgotten. And like Destroy All Monsters monsters is like the last movie where he has an appearance.
Yeah. So like I faintly remember because I had that on VHS. God damn, I wish we hadn't thrown that away. Like when my parents sold our old house, we had a whole like selection of VHS videos which we just left because we did not have the means to play them because our VHS player had broken down. But yeah, I remember it was cute. I mean, they all like destroy some world cities for a bit, but then team up and like destroy, like fight against Ghidorah, and yeah.
Yeah, I really hope the new Godzilla movies do something similar for like the big finale.
I think that's what they're going for. I mean, I lost count of like, I know Godzilla -1. I want to see that, but then there's I think 2 or 3 other ones. Godzilla
Yeah, like
Kong
basically -1 was the movie that was made by Toho in Japan, and it has like nothing to do with the American. Yeah, so, like the American movies, they are just 5. It's like the Godzilla from 2014. Then comes Kong Skull Island. Then comes Godzilla King of the Monsters. Then Godzilla vs Kong. And now the newest one, I just watched it yesterday again in the cinema, Godzilla Cross Kong, where they work together.
Oh, yeah, that sounded ridiculous. I don't know how was it, but
I love these so much. They are amazing, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, so these are cozy movies you would go to like with friends or with a date, and like it's kind of like heartwarming. Like
it is,
you know, it's
fun.
Not, yeah.
And they actually do treat the monsters like their own characters. Like they have story arcs.
Oh, well, okay. I should go back to watching these films.
Yeah, they're fun.
And
they have some cool designs because they can't use every Toho monster. They have invented their very own kaiju for these, and they're all actually pre-designs. For example, there is a South American kaiju that's like a mix between a mastodon and the ground sloth. And
I think what was it called in the 2014 in the
Muto, you mean?
Muto, yeah, those were great designs.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
well.
that's all for the future.
Yeah. I mean, once again, it's so fun talking with you that, you know, one thing leads to another, and like I could talk for hours. So thanks for this great discussion, and thanks to you all for listening to us so far. Any last remarks, TK, before we say goodbye?
May the force be with you.
Always. All right. Thanks, everybody, and have a nice day or night wherever you are. Please don't forget to subscribe, comment, and contribute to our Patreon channels. Goodbye for now.
Bye.